Okay, we are recording now, so thanks for joining, and I know we've got some people that'll probably be watching the recorded version of this, so please feel free to ask questions. That always helps others as well to get the most out of the session. So really encourage at any point, just open your microphone, or I've got a chat box open. You can send me a chat. So this session is going to focus on the Smart Clicker, and just to kind of show you the different generations. Oh, I should start. I'm Wes Anderson. I'm the founder for Smart Animal Training Systems. My background is engineering and training. I work with service dogs quite a bit, do behavior mod and some skills training. So I've been working with service dogs for probably about 13 years, and an engineer much longer than that, than I care to admit to. But all of our products are designed to bring technology to the positive training world. So I hope you find something that'll fit your needs. This session today, I'm going to focus mainly on just the Smart Clicker itself, but I wanted to kind of give you an overview of the generation of products. We're now on our third generation of products. The main difference, the feeder itself, the physical feeder, the PetTutor Blue, you'll see this little blue tube. The mechanics of that hasn't changed, but the electronics are now on our third version. The first version that we sent out, if you can see that on the monitor there, it has 3 buttons. We call it the 3-button remote. It did not talk to a phone or tablet, and so that was one of the drawbacks. One of the advantages, however, is that it could directly control the feeder, so you didn't have to get your phone out and do anything, and that was really nice for a lot of reasons. Inside this was also a tilt sensor, so if it got wiggled, it would trigger the feeder, and there are a number of applications for that. I'm going to go over that later. And there was also a microphone, so it could listen to the bark. But because of its limitation, just in the nature of the electronics in this, it could not talk to the phone or tablet. So we've redid the electronics. The Generation 2 Smart Clicker looks like this, and in fact, it is identical for Generation 3. The only difference is, if you look on the strap, it's blank if it's a Generation 2, and it has in very light font there, that may be backwards, sorry if the video's backwards, but it'll say Gen 3. And we do have some new straps, actually. We just arrived in the last couple of days, so we're going to be putting some new straps on that. That'll make it a little easier, too, to see the difference between the Generation 3 and the Generation 2 Smart Clicker. So you'll notice physically they look the same, and I'm going to show you the differences here in just a second. So those are the 3 generations of remote that control the feeder, and they work. The first one did not work with the phone or tablet. Again, the other 2 can work with the phone, and then it's only the 3rd generation that can work directly with the feeder. Let me see if I can get my little whiteboard up here so I can kind of sketch for you what that looks like.
I wanted to do it on the...
Hello? Yeah, can you guys see my whiteboard here? Okay.
Yes.
Oh, hi, Amy. Thanks for joining. So I'm going to kind of try to draw out here an outline of the differences. So you've got there's in the clickers, you've got a standalone. So there's a I'll call it standalone mode, and then there's a phone mode. So in the standalone, the Smart Clicker can talk directly to the feeder. And so you can send a command directly to the feeder in the standalone mode. Now, there is a caveat, and I'll tell you what that is in just a second. In the phone mode, there is a feeder, and there is a phone, Can you see my drawings okay? I mean, they're it's very, very bad artistry, but hopefully you can see what the concept here. And so in the phone mode, this is the way the communication works. It goes from the clicker to the phone to the feeder. And in the direct mode, it goes directly from the smart clicker to the feeder. Now, this standalone is only in generation 3. This mode for the phone mode is in generation 2 or generation 3. So you have either one of those capabilities then. If you, let me see, I'm going to stop the video here just a second so there's less to see. Can you see me okay still?
Can't see you, can just see the screen now.
The screen,
whiteboard.
good. Okay, all right. I thought that was a little distracting. Okay, so if you see now, we've got under the phone mode, we can talk to through the phone to the feeder for a Gen 2 or a Gen 3 clicker. The Gen 3 clickers, another easy way to know that is these were only started selling in 2018. So this year, we started selling the Generation 3 Smart Clicker. The other big difference is because this is the Generation 2 Smart Clicker, this is for Gen 2. The Gen 2 had a range of, I'll say maybe about 40 feet, 30 to 40 feet between the Smart Clicker and the phone. The new Generation 3, hold on to your seats, 500 feet. So it is an incredible distance. In fact, it is more than an American football field, 1.5 football fields longer. It would be difficult almost at that range to see what's going on. And because of this new power, we also have multiple walls. So it'll penetrate walls under Generation 3. The Gen 2 is not nearly as capable, not nearly as powerful. And so if you get behind a wall, depending on what it's made of, you may start to lose the signal. And so to keep this active, you need to stay within that range and not block the signal. For a lot of application, that works pretty well. But there's a brand new Bluetooth that just recently, Bluetooth is changing very quickly now. So it allowed us to have this boost in power. And the Generation 3 feeders are also much longer range. So that's a Gen 3. I should say if you've got a Generation 2 Smart Clicker, for this standalone mode, it only works if you've got a Gen 3 feeder. So you have to have a Gen 3 feeder on both ends for the standalone mode. You don't have to have that if you've got a phone in between. So this could be, for instance, I could have a Gen 3 Smart Clicker talk to the phone and then talk to a Gen 2 feeder, Generation 2 feeder. But it has to go through the phone, either an Android or an iPhone. So those are the main differences. So you've got standalone mode and phone mode, and either and only the Gen 3 can do the standalone mode. So that's the big difference there. And the range, of course. Now, additional capabilities that both generations of products will do tilt. So you can put the Smart Clicker into tilt mode, and that means that if you wiggle the Smart Clicker, that wiggling will trigger the feeder. So if you've got it for Gen 2 product, if you've got it connected to the phone, it'll send that command on to the feeder. That is, I'll go over some applications for that. You guys might have some thoughts yourself about different training and husbandry applications for that. I've got some really great stories of how people are using the tilt mode for a whole variety of things. You can also just manually trigger. And so you can just press the button once and it'll send a feed command onto the feeder. For generation 3, you can activate the auto mode or timed interval. So if you would like the feeder to start dispensing treats on a programmed interval, you can do that from the generation 3 clicker by just holding the button down until it goes into auto mode. So that's another capability that you've got with the generation 3 clicker. And so that kind of summarizes the two different models or generations of Smart Clicker. There's also a feature that's a part of the app. So when you come over to the phone, we can also do over here under phone mode, I've called it the criteria counter. And everyone goes through some of the schools, more advanced schools for training, Karen Pryor Academy or Gene Donaldson's Academy. There are several others. Or Bob Bailey. You're probably going to be asked to record data, which everyone agrees is a good idea, and everyone hates to do it. So the criteria counter is an attempt to help answer that and take some of the burden of keeping track of data when you're doing a training session, and I'll show you how to do that. And for that mode, for the criteria counter, you can use it with or without a feeder. So it doesn't require that you have to have a feeder in order to use that mode, and it will keep track of data, and you can just manually provide the reinforcement. Okay, I'm going to pause there, see if you have any questions about, that's a lot of information about those, the different generations. I know that some folks, does anyone have a generation 3 Smart Clicker that's online? One that you got this year?
I'm getting one. I'm still waiting for it.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, I've got 2, Wes.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah, depending on when you got that. Yeah, one other point that I should make is the first feeders that we shipped need to be updated through the phone if you haven't done that already. Now, if you're waiting, is it on order, or are you in Australia?
Is that Amy or Louise?
Amy?
Amy, I'm in San Diego.
Oh, San Diego. Oh, okay. So you just ordered it?
Well, I ordered it a couple of weeks ago maybe, but you were waiting for me to send my old one back to you, and I think mine just got shipped this morning.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. As I thought we're shipping those now. I just wanted to make sure. The only caveat for the Gen 3 is some of the earlier Generation 3 feeders need to have a software update, which can be done through the phone. So if you know of anyone that has difficulty with their Gen 3 talking to the new Gen 3 Smart Clicker, it's probably a software update. And again, that's pretty easy. Just have them contact us at the support center, support@PetTutor.BIZ, and we can get that done for them.
Well, that wouldn't apply to any that are being shipped out now, though?
Correct. Yeah, all the feeders that are going out now, we've got the latest firmware, they call it, version down in the feeder, and so it's current.
Okay,
Yes.
so that'll probably be me, Wes, because I've got 2 that don't talk to my feeder at all.
Okay. Okay.
Don't talk to my phone and my feeder.
So the Generation 3 feeders start at serial number 4000 and above. If it's below that, that's a Generation 2 feeder. So that's a place to start. Now again, the direct connection to the feeder will only work if you've got Generation 3 on both ends. So for this package to work, Smart Clicker direct to the feeder, it has to be Gen 3 on both ends. And the feeder itself, the Generation 3 feeder, if it was shipped in the first quarter of this year, it may need to be updated, software, if it hasn't already. and that we can do over the phone. Okay, so those are the 2 generations and some of the capabilities. Let's see. Oh, why would you want to go with the phone mode? So let's see, I'm going to clear this and I'm going to talk about just phone mode again. And in this mode, again, we've got the feeder and the smart clicker and a phone. And this is the way it has to work for Gen 2. It's an option for Gen 3. If you do have it connected to the phone, you get a couple of capabilities. So you get this criteria counter. And I'm going to try to show you a demo of that. So you've got the criteria counter. You also have the click sound. So the smart clicker itself does not have a speaker built into it. If you want a marker, an acoustic marker, that comes from the feeder itself. So if you're in the standalone mode and you press the button, the feeder will beep. But if you're running through the phone, there's a recorded and actual mechanical clicker sound in the phone. It's in the phone app, and it will click when you press the button on the smart clicker. And so if you want to have that acoustic marker and not use the feeder beep, you can use the phone for that. You can have the criteria counter to keep track of data. So those are a couple of reasons. And then for Gen 3 only, for Gen 3 smart clickers, you can update the clicker. You can update the smart clicker. Now you can't update a Gen 2. So the Generation 2 smart clickers are pretty well locked in at this point. So we're not updating that software anymore. But we may be adding future capabilities in the Gen 3 smart clicker. And if we do that, that'll be a software upgrade, and that'll be through the phone. And you should be able to get access for that. Okay, so that's the phone mode. Let's see if I can get this to work. I'm going to show you how to go about connecting a smart clicker. Let's see if I can stop sharing. Let's see, bring the video back. Okay. Yeah. All right. I hope you can. Whoa, there we go. That's the screen, actually the new screen. So I'm going to show you our Android app. We've completely revamped some elements of the Android app. And this is actually a beta version that I'm hoping to get in the Google Play Store here very soon, maybe within another week or so. We're testing it and everything's looking pretty good so far. So that should be coming very, very soon, this new Android app. And if I hit the begin button, on the older ones it said begin training. We've simplified that a little bit. I'm going to, I'll show you, I've got a Generation 3 clicker. Now, if I hold down the left-hand button, which is you got a smooth one and a rough one. If I hold the rough one down and press the smooth one, you'll see that light turned yellow. Yellow means tilt mode. I'm going to press it again. Blue means phone mode. So that's tilt and that's phone. I release, and now it's flashing. That means I can connect to it, and it's shown up on my app. Again, apologies. I thought I could cast this onto my desktop, but yeah, I've got a feeder and a Generation 3 smart clicker. So I've hit the checkbox. That means I've connected to them, And now down at the bottom, I'm going to hit Start Training. And now, I don't know if you heard that, but there's a Generation 3 feeder behind me. I just press the feed button. I can also press the smooth button on the Smart Clicker, or the right-hand button. You heard that mechanical click. That's coming from the phone itself. So that's how it plays the mechanical click sound. Now, in this app, so that's how you get the sound of the clicker if you want that from the phone. The other function you'll see on here is this, up at the top, there's a little C. You'll see a C there over by the gear. If you press that, there's a drop-down window. And now as I click away, you'll see a pie chart. I'm going to explain what's going on here. I'm pressing, you'll hear the click. So you've got two buttons. The right-hand button, if I'm doing training, it's very common to set criteria and a number of training sessions for that. I went through Bob Bailey's chicken camps, and that's something that he emphasized. I know a lot of highly skilled trainers do emphasize setting aside or setting a criteria and then running a number of trials to see how well the dog does. So if it's a targeting exercise, you want the nose to get close to the target initially. So you might run 5 repetitions for the nose getting within a few inches, and then you may increase your criteria if you're successful to the next level. Gene Donaldson has a wonderful phrase I like a lot, is push, drop, stick, which is kind of borrowed from the card playing world. But that means if your criteria is good enough, if you're very successful, usually the rule of thumb is 80%. So if you're working at a criteria and your dog has gotten 8 out of 10 trials, or let's say 4 out of 5 trials, then you're ready to make it more difficult, and you'll push the criteria. So this keeps track of that for you. So you can see the little pie chart. When I hit the right-hand button, and here's how, and we have videos online. I'll point you, all this I'm covering, a lot of this I'm covering is on our online tutorials. But if I hit the right-hand button, what happens is that blue portion of the pie increases. You hear the click, and the feeder behind me is also delivering a treat. So if you're training and your dog is successful on your criteria, you've just recorded that data and sent the feed command on. But what if you didn't quite make criteria? Let's say your criteria was to actually touch the target, and you're running 5 trials and one of them missed, and maybe another one missed. You'll see the pie chart, the tan portion is getting bigger, and up at the top are percentages of hits and misses on criteria. And what you didn't hear was the click, and you didn't see the feed. So the app automatically prevents the sound, the marker sound, from happening, or the feed from dispensing. It manages that because that's a miss on criteria. If it's a hit, the dog gets fed, the marker is run, and the data is recorded. If it's a miss, only the data gets recorded. Nothing else. The dog is not alerted in any way that that was a miss on criteria. So that's the criteria counter. We have several
Sorry, Wes, did you press a button at all to do the miss?
Yeah. So it's hard to see, but there's 2 buttons. That's why there are the rough button. The rough button is a miss. Yeah, if you hit the rough button, that's a miss. It's the smooth button, or the rough one is the left hand. The smooth one is the right hand. Yep.
Perfect.
Yep. So the 2 buttons, when you're connected to the phone and when you're in the criteria mode, that's the way it'll register. If I close that out, now I've hit the C, and that closed the little pie chart. And so now it's just working as in manual training mode. So I'm just hitting the right button and nothing really happens. So I'm not really recording the data until I open that window and get my pie chart there. And the pie chart will keep track of the number of hits and misses. And I just noticed tonight in this beta version, it's also should be keeping track of the rate of reinforcement. So the reinforcers per minute. That's another one that Bob Bailey is very famous for. He has 3 general categories of training skills that he said most of his consulting experiences, people miss the timing, the setting of the criteria, and the rate of reinforcement. And so this one this app will also keep track of your reinforcers per minute. As you know, if you've done a lot of training, if you get that rate too low, your animal is looking for a better game in town, so they're off somewhere else if that reinforcement rate drops. And so the app will kind of help you keep track of that. So that is the criteria.
Sorry, Wes. I just think all my KPA students are going to love this. So even if they don't want the Pet Tutor, they can get a Smart Clicker.
Yes.
And download the app.
Yep.
And they can have all their data recorded.
You got it. That's right.
And that will work for Android as well as the iPhones.
Right. Yeah. So in that sense, in the application, Alexis, you just mentioned, the Smart Clicker can really be thought of as a standalone tool. It doesn't need the feeder if you're using it to record data. And then, you just manually toss treats, as you wish.
So they will just need to make a recording of that, though, for any particular exercise, or does your magical technology have the ability to keep that data stored somewhere?
Yeah, so what you see, Alexis, at this point in time is where the app is. Now, we try to respond to customer requests. That's how this tool came about, the criteria counter. So if people would like that recorded, we're certainly open to suggestions for that. I could see how an instructor would like to have that information recorded.
I'll make a formal request, Wes.
I got you. Okay, that'll work. Yeah, so that could be. I can't say when something like that, but I do see the need for that. At this point, you would end the session and then look at the pie chart and write down those numbers, and then
that's fantastic.
Be ready to go on to the next trial. And there's I didn't cover it. See, there's a reset button. So in a session, you can clear that out, and now you're ready to start another session. So you can keep the criteria going. Session 1, I've got a set of criteria. I work through that, 5 or 10 trials or whatever, and now I've got my data. I'm at 80%, so I'm going to write that down, and I'm going to push my criteria up. I do a reset, and now I'm ready to start the next session and go through another 10 trials or whatever. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thanks, Wes.
Oh, you're most welcome. And so that's one of the more advanced features of the Smart Clicker, and it is available for Gen 2 or Gen 3 products. And the same is true regarding that idea of standalone. So the Smart Clicker, whether it's Gen 2 or Gen 3, can talk to the criteria counter. Now, we are updating both apps, the iOS app and the Android app. I don't think the one in the store yet, it may not have this working for Android, so but we're very close. Like I said, I'm hoping here in about a week. I've been testing this. You see here the app. This is what we're evaluating right now, so it's very close. And if it looks good, we'll go ahead and put that in the store, and then we'll take suggestions on improvements to that feature. Yeah, I know a lot of my clicker trainer friends really like that criteria counter. And so that's a couple of the advanced functions on the phone, the sound and criteria. I did talk about tilt mode. So let's see, is there anything else on the app? I think that's probably it for the app. So I'm going to try to go back to this whiteboard. Okay.
So Wes,
yes,
both my Smart Clickers that I got out got out from the wrapper last week and I pulled the tab out. They're
Oh.
both not even switching on with a light. So I'll go replace those batteries. And you think that'll be the end of it? Or you think that could there be another reason the light's not coming on?
Yeah, so you got one had a little tab on it or a little clear
Yeah,
plastic.
I had both two with a little tab on. I pulled those out last week and tried to
Yeah.
sync them with my phone, but they didn't. And then today, now there's no light coming on, so I'm just going to assume that my batteries, for some reason, they're dead, which is okay. And is that generally the end of my connectivity problems, or is there anything else? If I changed the battery and didn't come on, just contact support?
Oh yeah, well yes, contact support for sure. Yeah, if you have any questions. But just a couple that you did remind me. Now, when you press the button to trigger it, the light will not come on, so it doesn't flash. It only comes on when you're selecting a mode. So in this one, let's see if I can. So I'm going to press the rough button. Oh, I'm connected to the phone, so I'm going to kill that connection. So I'm going to close out the app. So I had to disconnect from the phone to go into mode selection. So now I'm going to press the rough button and the other. Now it's in tilt mode, and now it's in phone mode, and back into tilt mode. I'm going to release, and now it's in tilt mode. And if it wiggles, there, it triggered, but the light did not flash. So if I want to take it back out, I press the button, and now it's out of tilt mode. So that's how you go in and out of tilt mode. But if I press the button like that, you notice the light didn't flash. These little LEDs, there's a the CR2032 coin battery in the back. Those can last. I've been using mine in tilt mode probably, I bet at least 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. I would say 2 weeks for sure. You ought to be able to use it pretty reasonably in the tilt mode. My dog plays the game. I put this in a wobbler so he can play the wobbler game. I'm going to talk about some applications here in just a minute. But he bumps this and it triggers the feeder. You know, his 1 cup of food will trigger about 150 times. And he does that twice a day, and each one's about a 15-minute session. So he's getting his meal twice a day. And I do that for between 2 and 3 weeks before I have to change the coin battery. Now, if you just got the clicker, you probably have the most current version of the software that's in the clicker. But like I said, you can update it. Now, our earlier version of the tilt mode was very power hungry. It would probably last about 3 days, 2 or 3 days. And now we're up to 2 or 3 weeks. And I will tell you, there are lots of little tricks to reducing power now in this new Bluetooth, and we're still discovering and unwrapping all the ways to make that battery last longer. But right now it looks like we've got it up to around 2 to 3 weeks. So your battery should last you in typical applications like the tilt mode or typical training for about that long. The Smart Clicker also, the Generation 3, because it has such high power, we may also bring out a change in the future in the app to be able to bring that power down. But if you're training in manual mode, this will go 500 feet each time you trigger it. So it's blasting out at full power. In fact, that's not, yes.
Yeah, so I've got my Smart Clicker, and my battery, if my battery's working, it'll sync to my phone, and I start pressing my smooth right-hand button either directly at the machine or with my counter on my phone. How do I turn then my Smart Clicker off to save the battery?
Yeah, there is no off button.
Okay.
And so that's a great question. For the phone mode, you disconnect it from the phone. So just close the app out, and that will disconnect the Smart Clicker. So if you're in the phone mode, that's the way you put the Smart Clicker back to sleep. It always goes into, it's actually called hibernate mode, so it's in a deep hibernation, but it can wake up extremely fast. And when you press the right-hand button, when you're in the direct mode, when you're triggering directly to the feeder, it wakes up very quickly, sends out a feed command, then goes back to sleep. And so you want it, the default is always to go back into the manual trigger mode, or that manual standalone mode. The same is true for the tilt mode. The battery will last longer if you take it out of tilt mode, but if the device, if the Smart Clicker does not see any movement, so for instance, I put it in my, I've got a Kong wobbler. This is one of my favorite toys. There are lots of things that it fit in. So I put it inside a little soft neoprene koozie. This is one that holds beer. I just don't happen to have any beer in it right now. But I put my little Smart Clicker down inside that and put it into tilt mode, and then put it back in the toy and let my dog do that for about 15 minutes until he finishes his meal. And then if I don't move it, if it doesn't get bumped, the Smart Clicker will go back, it will drop itself out of tilt mode and go back to sleep again. So it always defaults back into the manual mode, but you won't get a light. The light will not flash unless you're changing modes like I showed you. Yes?
Can I get you to show us again how you go from just Smart Clicker to tilt mode? I didn't quite capture that.
Yeah. So we've got, I'll say it's, there's manual, tilt, and phone. And this tilt is yellow. So there's a yellow light. The phone mode is a blue light. And there's nothing for the manual mode. We always go back into the manual or hibernation in manual mode. And so I'm going to hold the rough button down, pressing and holding the rough button. And now I'm going to hit the right hand smooth button. The light is yellow. So if I release, so I release, the light went out, I'm now in tilt mode. The way I know that is if I bump it, and you'll hear the feeder fire. Now in the tilt mode, there is a timer. When it triggers, it will not go off for another 3 seconds. So if you're doing this and it's not going off, you know, bang bang beep beep beep, it doesn't do that. That's for a lot of reasons, but if the dog hits it and the wobbler's bouncing like this, we don't want it to just keep firing treats out. It's like super jackpot. So we have a little window there. Once it triggers in tilt mode, it won't take another command for 3 seconds. Then it rearms and it's ready to go again in the tilt mode. So that's just a detail about the tilt mode. Now I'm in tilt mode. I can either set this down and not move it for 3 minutes. If I do that, it goes right back into manual mode and it sleeps. So in manual, it's always sleeping. Or I can press the right hand button one time, and now I've taken it out of tilt mode. So I'll go back through that again. Press and hold the rough button, the right hand button, I've got a yellow light. Release, I'm in tilt mode. Take it out of tilt mode, press the right hand button. And now it's back into manual mode. So that's how to go in and out of tilt mode. And the only other mode is the phone mode, which is the blue light. Press and hold the rough button. Then the right hand smooth button is yellow, and now it's blue. If I release, now it's flashing blue, saying I'm ready to connect to a phone. If I change my mind and say, oh, I don't want to connect to a phone, press and hold the rough button and the right button again, and now it's stopped. So and it will time out on its own. If you don't connect to a phone, it's 30 seconds, and then the light will go out and it'll go back into manual mode. It's always, so you're always going between manual mode to tilt or to phone and then back into manual. Did that help?
Yeah, that was great. Thank you very much.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. So those are the modes for, again, this is for generation 3 that we're talking about now. All the mode changing is Gen 3. Okay. And let's see. So that was the modes. We talked about the direct-to-feeder mode, talking to the phone. I think might be getting close to talk about some applications. I did show you the battery again. You'll notice this was designed. There's some little prongs. Those are battery pushers. So you can line that up and push the battery out. It only goes out one way. So really take a look at it, at the battery. There's only one way to get it out. But if you push the battery out, it just comes out like this. Now you'll see the coin battery. It has a plus symbol on it. I don't know if you can see that with the flash, but there's a plus symbol on the coin battery. And you put that so that it is facing away from the board. And there's also a plus on the metal battery holder. You'll see that. And you slip that back in there.
Wes, are you able to have your screen large? Because I can't actually see your smart clicker when you're on this small screen.
Oh, the video? I am sorry, let's see.
Because I'd like to see how you opened it up.
Okay, let's see.
Same here. I couldn't see it either.
Oh, sorry. Okay, well, I'm kind of a rookie at Zoom.
I think if you close your whiteboard application, you should come back.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. Let's try that.
Yay. Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. So if I'm talking, so if you mute, I should be taking up more of space. Am I bigger now? Can you see the video better?
Full screen.
It is?
Yep.
Oh, good. Okay.
And then you'll just need to put the clicker up near your face, I think.
All right. So let's do that again. My apologies. I didn't realize it was that small. So I'm going to go in and out of tilt mode again. So this is a good rehearsal. So I'm going to hold the rough button down again.
Excuse me, but I'm sorry, but when you're so close, it blurs. Can you back it up a little bit?
Like this?
Better.
Okay. Yep. And so this is for generation 3 only. So I'm going to hold the rough button down, press the right button. Now it turned yellow. I'm going to release, and now I'm in tilt mode. So it'll go back into the sleep and manual mode if I don't move it for 3 minutes, or if I want to take it back out. Now I'm going to take it out of tilt mode. I press the right hand button and it's out of tilt mode. So it's no longer, you can shake it if you're not sure. And now it's back into manual mode. And so I can just press the right hand button. The other modes, so again, I'm going into mode. I'm going to press the rough button, the smooth button. Now it's yellow, and now it's blue. And if I release, it's flashing blue. I could connect to the phone. So if I open my phone won't see it. If I don't get the blue light flashing, the phone won't be able to see this device yet. So you have to make it flash in order for it to be discoverable by the phone. So I'm going to hold that rough button down. I decided not to connect to the phone. I'm going to press the right hand button, and now the light stopped flashing. So that's going from manual to tilt, and then back to manual, going from manual to phone mode, and then back to manual. And then again, the battery in the back.
So Wes, can you put the back on and show us how you actually get the back off on the screen?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
It's probably really simple, but I'm missing that bit.
Well, I don't know. My wife actually struggles with this all the time. I don't, yeah. I'm not going to say anything because she could be listening. So it's supposed to slide up, kind of shear to kind of, you could think of it, I don't know if you can see, there's little hooks on the top part. And what you do is you take the bottom part goes this way, the top part goes the other in the opposite direction. So I'm just going to take my thumb and kind of pull the bottom away from my other hand. So I've got the strap in one hand, so I'm holding onto the strap. I'm going to grab the bottom with my thumb and move it, and it comes loose that way. And then there's a couple little holes that you drop those the little hooks into, and then they close right back up, and it should
I've
snap.
been successful.
Could you say that again?
I was successful. Thank you.
Oh, good, great. Yep. Yeah, and it's fairly robust to being dropped that way, the way you have to open it up. It was designed so it just didn't, it's less likely to pop. It's a little bit harder, depending on how it hits, for it to just pop apart. But we also made it very, just kind of as a side note, it's very small and lightweight for multiple reasons. One of the reasons is if you put it in a toy, it doesn't change the dynamic of the toy. I've got a little IQ ball here, and so you know, this is another treat dispenser. It fits into a lot of different toys, and so I can get it inside the toy very easily. I usually would wrap some paper towel around or something to cushion a little bit. But it's lightweight, so the toy has more action to it, more natural action. We don't alter the behavior of the toy. Also for people playing sports, so we've been thinking about, you know, agility and a lot of movement sports, and you want it kind of lightweight. You want to carry around a heavy remote. The other remote wasn't too bad, but it's much heavier. We're probably a tenth of the weight if you had to weigh. I actually haven't weighed it, but with the battery in it, it's much lighter than the original remote. And so now I think we're kind of coming up on maybe some applications, and I wanted to share a few of those with you. Anything else, any other questions so far about the operation, how to connect or disconnect?
So you were saying that the Smart Clicker instructions were for Generation 3. Are they different then for Generation 2 for the tilt mode?
Yeah, let's see here. And so, yeah, one thing that's, if you go to our Getting Started page, and I'm on the Getting Started page here. Is that, I should be sharing my screen, I think. Let's see, or am I?
Not yet.
Yeah, okay. Hang on a second. Share. I really like Zoom, but I'm still learning. Okay. So that should be sharing the screen here.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah. Okay. And so if you go, this is the Getting Started page off of our home page. Go to Getting Started and then scroll down to Smart Clicker and User Guide. And there are some videos here. And oh yes, I do want to talk about one of the other features of the Smart Clicker. If you have multiple feeders, oh yeah, I need to talk about this.
Okay, wait, can I just interrupt you? That page that you just showed us, that was smarttraining.com. I've been going to the Facebook page.
Yeah, smartanimaltraining.com or PetTutor.BIZ.
Okay, thank you.
Either one of those will take you to this page. Oh, and then you have to click in the upper right-hand corner. The little hamburger menu has this Getting Started down at the bottom. If you click on that, then this is where you'll get to. And you go down here to the Smart Clicker User Guide. There are some videos. And then the User Guide is divided into two halves. It's Generation 2 and Generation 3 Smart Clicker. The blue background, if you scroll through that, is all about Generation 3. And then when you get to the green, that's Generation 2. And so those instructions and videos are relevant to each generation smart clicker. And there is a slight difference in the way they operate then. Yeah, you use the left. Yeah, I better not confuse the Gen 3 people, Alexis. If you have a Gen 2.
No, that's okay. I'll go through and have a look.
Yeah, and if you have any questions, let me know. But it does work a little different. You to get it in and out of tilt mode, you actually use the left button.
Yep, no worries. I'll have a look at that. Thanks.
Wes, can I ask a question? If you've got a Gen 3, and probably if Alexis and I have a Gen 3 and it's an older model, how do we know it needs an upgrade?
Generation 3, yeah, if you're not getting, I guess there are a couple of recent improvements. For one, the iOS app was not connecting and staying connected on earlier versions of that software. Android did okay, but iOS did not. So the connection to the phone was not stable. We've made that so that it is now in the new software.
And is that you just go back to the App Store and get another version, or you have to go to support?
You have to go to support. Yeah, this is actually, it's not the app, but it is the firmware out in the device. It's actually the software in the, there's a, believe it or not, an incredible little computer in that little smart clicker. So it's got its own software and its own computer. And we use the phone to upgrade it though. So we'll just give you the instructions and the way to upgrade the smart clicker. The other thing that's been in the new version, it's been we're on version 2.07 right now, but the earlier versions, like I said, the tilt was very battery hungry, and so if you put it into tilt mode, it would use the battery up pretty quickly, and that's been greatly extended now. So those are the two major features between earlier versions and what we're shipping now. And again, anything that's gone out in the last couple of weeks has the latest software in it. So, I'd be glad to set up a session to go through it. But we do have written and video tutorials on how to do the upgrade. So we will send you the instructions, and you have them both in writing and video walkthroughs on how to do that. So there is one other item, and this is about the technical operation of the smart clicker, especially for Generation 3. First of all, when it ships, any Gen 3 feeder and any Gen 3 clicker come ready to talk to each other. So if you buy a Generation 3 feeder and then later decide to add a clicker, it will work. You don't have to do anything. Just turn the feeder on, press the pull the tab out, press the right-hand button, and you should get a feed. No setup. Now that works great if you have one feeder and one smart clicker and you're not in the vicinity of any other feeders or smart clickers. But because of that, because a feeder can talk to any clicker, any smart clicker, Gen 3, now this is all Gen 3, we had to add some additional capabilities so that we didn't get interfered with by other clickers, or a feeder didn't get interfered with. And I'm going to go through, there are 3 modes and this is all covered in the user guide for Gen 3. There are 3 listening modes in the feeder. When you get it, it comes in the listen all mode. So and this is all relevant to the feeder. The clickers don't change. Now I'm talking about the Gen 3 feeder and how it listens to feed commands from clickers. So it comes ready, the all mode. Again, if you go to a training facility now, you take your feeder to a training facility and someone else has a Generation 3 smart clicker and they push the button, guess what's going to happen? Your feeder's going to fire. And you may not want that to happen. So we have 2 other options for you. The none mode, which means you can tell the feeder, and it's very easy. I'm going to go just show you quickly how you do that. And there are some videos in this as well. But the none mode says, I don't want you to listen to any smart clicker. And why would you want that? Well, if you're using your phone or a tablet and you don't have a smart clicker, you don't need to listen to any smart clicker. If you're in your house and nobody else is around, it doesn't matter. But if you're in the vicinity of someone else's smart clicker, if your feeder starts firing, you've gone to a training class and you know other people have pet tutors, it could be that someone else's smart clicker is triggering your Gen 3 feeder. So you need to put it into the none mode if you don't have a clicker, you're just using your phone. The last option then is you can think of it like pairing. And it's an exclusive listening relationship. The feeder will only listen to that specific smart clicker. And you do that, and these other modes, all the modes are set up on during power up. So let me see if I think I got a little diagram here show. What you have here in the middle is the listen to all clickers. And as I'm showing here, a feeder could listen if there were 4 people in the room. Any one of those 4 clickers could fire that feeder. Or one clicker could fire, I'm showing 4 feeders, but it's really an unlimited number. The new Gen 3 smart clicker, you could walk into a room or a kennel. If you had 500 dogs and 500 pet tutors, you could press that button once and it would feed all 500 dogs at the same time. Talk about a power rush. But that may not be what you want. And so the other 2 options are on the left, which is the phone only or none. Listen to none, no smart clickers. And the one on the right is exclusive, only listen to one smart clicker. And the phone, in all 3 scenarios, you can still use the phone. It doesn't preclude that. Now, the way you do that is on the power up. Let's see if I've got, yeah, and there's a video, I won't go through that, but what you basically do is hold down the manual feed button and press the power on, and then you've got 20 seconds to make a choice. And your choice then will put it into one of those 3 modes. In the listen to all mode, you just don't do anything. Just hold the manual button down, press the power, release, and don't do anything for 20 seconds, and it will default it'll go to the factory default. If you trigger your smart clicker, your Generation 3 smart clicker, during that 20 seconds, that ID will be stored permanent, or will be stored and will be remembered in the feeder. So if there's a big long serial number in the clicker, and the feeder will remember that serial number then. If you click it after you've powered it on, again, you got to hold the manual feed button, turn the power on, and then release. And within that 20 seconds, then if it gets the first clicker it hears, you don't want to do this in a room full of clickers, but the first smart clicker it hears, it will record that serial number. And then that'll be an exclusive relationship. If during that 20 seconds you press the manual feed button again, that is the listen to none mode, and it won't listen to any smart clicker. So those are the 3 modes. Again, if it's just you and your feeder and your clicker, you don't have to do anything. It comes ready to talk to each other, and you can just ignore all this information about the modes. But if you get into more complex scenarios, this is also something we're seeing a lot of interest now from kennel operations. We do a lot more with service dog programs and various kennel operations, so they'll have multiple feeders and multiple clickers, and so you can program them to listen to different in different ways. So you could have, if you had a room full of feeders, half of them could listen to one clicker and half of them could listen to another one. You could come up with all sorts of combinations. So that's the programming of the feeder. And
can I ask a question, Wes?
Yes, please.
If your pet tutor was in the none mode, you wouldn't be able to see that on your smart clicker or on your feeder, would you? How would, there's no light on the feeder or on the smart clicker.
Yeah.
So how would you, so let's say hypothetically that was the case, how could you I suppose you have to just test it on the feeder. If something's not working and your smart clicker's not communicating, you could test it on your feeder by
Yes. Yep. You got it.
Pressing the feed button and then the on button. Is that correct?
Yeah. So if it wasn't listening to the, I'd first check my smart clicker and make sure that it was working. And you can test the battery. If you think about it, you can turn the light on by putting it into tilt mode, right? So I'd put it into tilt mode and see if that yellow light comes on. If the yellow light comes on, okay, I know the battery's good. I know the smart clicker battery is good. I'd take it back out of tilt mode, and if during that process the feeder didn't fire, that would tell me that well, if the battery's good in the feeder, it's probably in the none mode. Again, they don't ship that way, so you would have to have put it in that mode accidentally, or forgotten that it was in the none mode. But that's a good question. Yes, if you get into that mode, it will not respond to any smart clicker, and there's no way of knowing, except by testing. You just have to push the button, and if nothing happens, it's easy enough to reset. So press the manual button, turn it on, release, don't do anything for 20 seconds, and it will go back into the all mode.
Okay. And can I ask a quick question? If you've got a smart clicker and you press the rough button, and then you press the left button down, then press the right button, and you get a permanent green light, what does that mean?
You have an older version of the software.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Perfect. End of answer. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good. We were. I was getting a little crazy with the modes, and so we had I'd started to put the green light as an indication for the manual mode, but it just things really got complicated. So we took that out from earlier versions. So yeah, that would tell me that you don't have the latest smart clicker software. So we'll want to get that upgraded. Yeah, the green light normally shouldn't come on. Oh, and if you get a red light, that typically would indicate the battery's getting low. You won't always know that. It could go low and just stop working, but if you happen to see it flash red, it's very possible that the battery's getting low, and the coin battery, and it's time to replace that. Okay. Let's see, I am going to try one more, and feel free to, if you have any other questions. I wanted to kind of wrap up here on some of the applications. And so for the smart clicker, the range, I said, is for Gen 3, for Gen 3, oh boy, let's see. Okay, for generation 3, it's 500 feet. So I'm hoping that people will start to think about some training applications that were difficult before. This is 500 feet, no phone required. This is the smart clicker direct to the feeder if they're both generation 3. So now you can get 500 feet away. And so, I've been thinking, Ken Ramirez does a lot in the world of animal rescue in nature, so you're starting to get some distance out there. I have been talking to people about training elephants, believe it or not. I mean, PetTutor's been used for so many species. I can't, it just is pretty exciting. Giraffes and elephants and horses, exotic birds. Because of the feeding system, it really lends itself to a wide variety of things. Ken McCourt uses it at Wolf Park. I think they've got 1 or 2 units at Wolf Park training wolves and coyotes and foxes. So you can start to get some very long ranges now with the feeder. So that's one area that you could start to think about outdoor applications. Also out of sight and wall penetration. You can get behind a wall. We have some kennels now that are setting up buttons so that the smart clicker, you could think you could put it inside something in tilt mode. And as people, if here's a kennel, and you've got a dog. Oh boy. All right. So you've got a dog, and then people are walking by. You could put the smart clicker here on the wall. You could tether it to something so that people could treat the dog as they walk by. So the feeder could be now inside the kennel. It could be some distance away. In kennel operations too, because of the range, you could set it up so if you were doing like a doggy daycare, you could actually go through the walls. You could watch it on your monitors and trigger the feeder through the wall, just watching it on the monitors. Some other applications, puzzles and games. I've talked about those. There's a whole bunch of toys that you could put together. Grooming, or vet care. We've been seeing more people use it for hands-free work. The way you can use it in these applications is in tilt mode on your shoe. And I know a couple of examples. Julie Shaw up in West Lafayette. Julie's great trainer and vet tech. She worked at Purdue Veterinary Center for a number of years, but she puts it on her shoe, and they use it a lot in grooming exercises. Ken McCourt has he has a horse, and so he puts cut up carrots into the feeder. And when he's behind the horse, he's trimming the horse's hoof. He can wiggle his foot and give a treat. So you can do a lot with veterinary and grooming care using hands-free. So in the tilt mode, now you've got a way to go hands-free for force-free. Haha, I don't know. Hands-free for force-free. Okay. And then another one that I have been playing with, let's see if I can, let's see, I'm gonna stop sharing and bear with me because I've been playing around with an idea. Let's see if I can get this. I don't know if this is gonna come through for you on Zoom or not. Let me give it a try. So I'm gonna try to show you at least a portion of a video. Let me know if you can you see that that video that's up there now?
Yep. Okay,
I'm going to try to play it. So I'll set up the situation here. I like I said, I do a lot with service dogs, and this guy that you see on the screen was becoming dog reactive, and he'd already been placed with a young lady, had some mobility issues and really needed him. And I was doing some troubleshooting to try to counter condition him. And so I needed some help to do that. And I've got a pet tutor set up on the cage. And I've got a second pet tutor and my boy, who is the stimulus dog, the neutral, or the decoy dog. So this is in the house. And let's see if, so in the psychology term for this is yoked experiment. And in that wobbler is a smart clicker. Yeah, I'm going to stop it there. Were you able to see the video? Did it come through?
Yes. Yep.
Oh, good, good. Yeah, yeah. I was pretty excited. I actually showed this to Jean Donaldson. I was at APDT. She thought it was pretty cool. So what I did in this case is I just set him up for lots of repetitions to begin with, and his trigger was the movement of another dog. And I kept them separated in different cages, and I would move them closer and closer together. I'd monitor this guy, but I'd do it while I'm having my breakfast. So instead of, spending a lot of time and doing individual reps, I let my dog do the training. And so he's moving back and forth, and I controlled how much movement he was doing. So I didn't want him to make big movements. So I put him in the X pen and put the wobbler fairly close. So he was just kind of moving back and forth a little bit. And that backup move was his invention. I didn't do that. He likes to back up and kick it. Some dogs will turn around and punch it with their nose. But what was really neat is we gained quite a few repetitions in this setup. And after I got to a point where I felt more comfortable with this guy, then we put him on leash, and I got an assistant, and we went out and did some setups. So, you still needed to do that more robust counter conditioning, but I got a lot of repetitions in early on with my assistant, which it was just me, a couple of pet tutors, and a smart clicker in the wobbler there. And so there might be, and you could have more than that. Obviously, with a new Gen 3 smart clicker, there's no limit to the number of feeders that one could trigger. So you could have a whole kennel of reactive dogs and one dog that's moving. I'm not advising that, but I mean, technically, you could have more than one reactive dog watching the stimulus dog. And
that's
and
a great idea, Wes. In those early stages, or if you haven't got your assistant there, it's a really great way to be able to start off.
Yeah, right. Early stages to kind of get to a point where you can lower that, bring that threshold better into control, and then get them out and do some manual work. So thanks. So that's just kind of a flavor of where you could go with the smart clicker for games, for training applications, keeping track of data. It has a lot of applications, or like the smartphone, you can use a smartphone to just make a phone call. That's the way we started with phones. They just make a phone call. If you just want to pick up the smart clicker and push the right hand button, and that's all you want to do, we can do that too. So it's really there to do is whatever you would like to use it for. So with that, I'm going to end, and if you have any other questions or would like to chat separately, I'd be happy to talk with anybody about that. And if you need any help, getting set up, updating your equipment, anything like that, just let me know.
Thanks, Wes. That's been really useful.
Good,
Yeah,
good.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming, and you have a great rest of the day.
Thank you. Yeah, Wes, I do have a question.
Yeah.
Back when you were talking about keeping track of the data collection, it sounds like everyone else was a dog trainer, and I'm not. And so some of that was kind of new to me, as far as how you would use that and what you would be doing. But I was wondering if you have resources on your website to kind of, help with that, or if that's just something that only a dog trainer would really know what to do with.
Well, with the little training, Alexis is certainly an expert. Let's see, which are you in the U.S., Amy?
Yeah, I'm in San Diego.
Oh, San Diego. Yeah. There might be a clicker trainer around you, or I would get on the user group too, the Pet Tutor user group on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a number of really outstanding trainers there. That whole idea, I actually have in the works some other advanced training capabilities that'll be coming along. They're more trainer focused, but I think the idea in general, and Alexis, I don't know if you're still online or have a thought about it, but that is certainly something.
I think she's gone.
Okay, all right. There are trainers on the user group, or if you send me a message separately, that idea of developing criteria. If you want to do training with your dog, it's certainly a very strong way to go about training something quickly to keep.
Yeah, very specifically what I want to train my dog with this.
Hang on a second. Let me, sorry to interrupt you. I just realized I still got the recording. I'm going to stop that.
Oh, yeah.